You went to bed at a reasonable hour, you didn't stay up late, you didn't drink, you didn't do anything wrong, and yet you woke up this morning feeling like you hadn't slept at all. Heavy, foggy, like someone drained the battery overnight and put you back on the shelf. You lie there for a moment, waiting for the energy to arrive. It doesn't. It hasn't for months, maybe longer. And here is what almost everyone around you, including, very often, your doctor will tell you next. You're getting older. This is normal. Your body just doesn't bounce back the way it used to. I want to tell you something directly, as someone who has stood at an operating table at 5 in the morning and watched what happens to a body when it has been running on insufficient oxygen and inadequate cardiac function for years. That explanation, "you're just getting older," is one of the most dangerous things a doctor can say to a patient over 60, not because it's malicious, because it is accepted. It closes the conversation before it has started, and behind that closed door, 7 very specific, very treatable things are quietly doing damage that compounds with every morning you spend accepting it as normal. My name is Dr. Kevin Adewale. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon. I've spent over 25 years and more than 2,000 surgeries studying what happens when the human heart and the systems around it are pushed past their limits. Today I'm counting down 7 hidden causes of morning exhaustion in people over 60, from the most overlooked to the one that, as a heart surgeon, concerns me the most. And for most of you watching this, at least 2 or 3 of these are happening simultaneously right now. Here is something most people don't understand about the body after 60. Sleep is not passive. While you lie still, your cardiovascular system is performing some of its most critical maintenance work of the entire day. Blood pressure should dip, heart rate slows, growth hormone is released, cellular repair accelerates, memory consolidates. Inflammatory compounds are cleared. This is not rest, this is active, complex biological work, and it requires specific conditions to complete. When those conditions are disrupted even partially, even quietly, the maintenance work doesn't finish. You wake up carrying the incomplete repair of the night before on top of the wear of the day ahead. That is what exhaustion after a full night of sleep actually is. Not age, incomplete biological maintenance, and the question every doctor should be asking is, what is disrupting it? Think of it this way. A factory that runs its maintenance crew every night. If you cut the power for 2 hours during that shift, you don't see the damage immediately. The machines run the next morning, but slowly, gradually, things start to wear. A belt frays, a seal weakens. You keep wondering why production feels harder than it used to. The work was never the problem, the interrupted maintenance was. After 60, your body's maintenance window is narrower and less forgiving than it was at 40. Small disruptions produce large consequences. What follows are the 7 most common disruptors, ranked from the one most people know but underestimate, to the one almost nobody suspects until it's on an operating table that it finally gets named. Number 7. Overnight dehydration. Start here, because this is the one that surprises people most for something so simple. During a typical night, the average adult loses between 0.5 and 1 liter of water through respiration, light perspiration, and the body's ongoing metabolic processes. In a younger body, mild dehydration produces mild signals. In a body over 60, the consequences are disproportionate for one specific reason: your kidneys become less efficient at conserving water as you age, and your thirst reflex, the alarm system that tells you to drink, becomes measurably less sensitive. You can be significantly dehydrated and feel nothing that prompts you to act. Here is what dehydration actually does to your morning energy. Blood volume drops. Your heart has to beat faster and harder to maintain the same circulation through reduced fluid. Oxygen delivery to the brain slows. Cognitive processing, reaction time, and mood regulation are all measurably impaired even at 1 to 2% dehydration. A level so mild most people never notice it consciously. A 2019 study in the journal Nutrients found that older adults showing up to morning cognitive assessments in a mildly dehydrated state scored significantly lower on memory, attention, and processing speed tests than they did when properly hydrated. Even when the dehydration was so mild, they reported feeling completely normal. Many people over 60 deliberately restrict fluid in the evenings to avoid multiple nighttime trips to the bathroom. I understand the logic completely. But going to bed even mildly dehydrated means your maintenance crew is working without adequate supplies all night long. The fix requires 30 seconds. A full glass of water before bed. Another on the nightstand. Not a sports drink, not a supplement water. Drink it before you check your phone in the morning. If your urine first thing is dark amber rather than pale yellow, you are starting every day behind. Write this one down, it costs nothing, and it is often the first thing that changes when patients make this list. Number 6. The blood sugar crash you're sleeping through this one is invisible. It happens while you're unconscious, which is exactly why it's so rarely identified. When you eat a large evening meal, particularly one high in refined carbohydrates, bread, pasta, rice, anything starchy, your blood sugar rises sharply in the hours after eating. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down. In a younger, metabolically flexible body, that process is smooth and precise. After 60, particularly. In anyone with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or type 2 diabetes, the response is less calibrated. Blood sugar rises higher and can overshoot on the way back down, dropping too far in the early morning hours, typically between 2 and a.m. When blood sugar drops significantly overnight, your body treats it as a mild emergency. Cortisol and adrenaline, your stress hormones, are released to bring it back up. Your heart rate increases briefly. Your sleep architecture fractures. You may not wake up fully, but you are pulled out of the deep restorative stages, multiple times every night. You experience none of this consciously. What you experience is waking up tired, often slightly irritable, sometimes with a mild headache, craving something sweet or carbohydrate heavy within the first hour. That craving is not a character flaw. It is your body trying to stabilize the same blood sugar roller coaster it has been riding all night. A 2021 study in diabetes care found that nocturnal glycemic instability was a strong independent predictor of daytime fatigue and cognitive impairment in adults over 65, and that it was present in a significant proportion of patients not yet formally diagnosed with diabetes. The fix has two parts. Finish your main meal at least 3 hours before sleep, and make that meal protein and vegetables first. Starchy carbohydrates last, or reduce them at dinner specifically. A handful of walnuts or a small amount of protein before bed stabilizes overnight glucose without triggering the same spike and crash cycle. Ask your doctor specifically, has my HbA1c been checked recently? If not, request it. One number, enormous implications. Number 5, your muscles are starving for fuel your body stopped making. This is where I need to tell you something that took me years and a great deal of discomfort to fully accept about my own prescribing patterns. Inside every cell in your body, and especially in the cells of your heart muscle and skeletal muscles, there are tiny structures called mitochondria. These are the energy generators. They take oxygen and nutrients and convert them into ATP, the biochemical currency your body runs on. Everything you do, lift a cup, think a thought, pump blood, requires ATP, and ATP requires functioning mitochondria. After 60, mitochondrial density and efficiency decline naturally. Your cells produce fewer of them, and the ones that remain are less productive. Think of it as a power plant where generators are being decommissioned faster than new ones are being built. The electricity is still on, but the reserve capacity is gone when demand spikes. Even modest demand, like walking upstairs or having a conversation that requires concentration, you hit the ceiling faster than you used to. That is the underlying biology of aging fatigue that nobody explains clearly enough. Now here is the part I need you to hear very carefully, because it involves a medication I have prescribed thousands of times. Statin, atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, simvastatin are among the most prescribed drugs in adults over 60. They lower cholesterol by blocking the mevalonate pathway. What the standard appointment almost never covers is that this same pathway produces CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. CoQ10 is not a supplement fad, it is a molecule that sits at the very center of mitochondrial energy production, the spark that ignites the conversion of nutrients into usable energy. Block the mevalonate pathway and you block CoQ10 synthesis. Every major statin study confirms it. Statins reduce blood CoQ10 levels by 30 to 50%. Let me say that again. The medication prescribed to protect your heart is simultaneously depleting the primary fuel your heart muscle runs on by a third to a half. The result in real patients: fatigue that feels bone deep, muscle weakness that makes climbing stairs an effort, mental fog that settles in and doesn't lift by noon. These are not coincidences, and they are not aging. They are the documented consequences of running cardiac and skeletal muscle on insufficient CoQ10 for months or years. A 2018 meta-analysis in the Journal of the American Heart Association confirmed that CoQ10 supplementation significantly improved exercise tolerance and reduced fatigue in statin-treated patients. The Q-Symbio trial showed measurable improvement in cardiac outcomes in heart failure patients who supplemented it. CoQ10 is over-the-counter. It has no patent. No one profits substantially from recommending it, which is exactly why it rarely comes up. For most adults over 60 on a statin, 100 to 200 milligrams of CoQ10 daily alongside their medication is a reasonable question to bring to their next appointment. The exact question to write down: Should I be supplementing CoQ10 given my statin dose and how long I've been on it? A good doctor will know exactly what you're asking. The conversation that follows is worth every penny of the office visit. Number 4. Medications that are stealing your morning. This one is not about a single drug. It is about what happens when 3 or 4 drugs that each cause mild fatigue as a side effect are combined in the same body, in the same 24-hour cycle, with no one keeping score. The average American over 65 takes 4 to 5 prescription medications. Each one was tested individually. Each was approved individually. What combination effects look like over months and years in a body that filters medications more slowly than it did at 50 is almost never part of the standard appointment. Here are the most common morning fatigue offenders I see in patients. Beta blockers, metoprolol, atenolol, carvedilol work by slowing the heart rate and reducing cardiac output. That is precisely what makes them valuable for certain conditions. It also means less blood, less oxygen, less fuel is being delivered to the brain and muscles with every heartbeat. Waking up feeling slow, heavy, and foggy is a direct physiological consequence of what these medications are designed to do. They are not wrong for you, but their timing may be. First-generation antihistamines found in many over-the-counter sleep aids and allergy medications cross the blood-brain barrier and suppress histamine activity for 12 to 18 hours after a single dose. For a 70-year-old body that metabolizes drugs more slowly than the label assumes, a pill taken at p.m. can still be exerting sedative effects at 10 the next morning. Certain blood pressure medications, particularly alpha blockers and some calcium channel blockers, produce a pronounced drop in blood pressure on standing, called orthostatic hypotension. Waking up and moving from horizontal to vertical too quickly briefly starves the brain of blood flow. Patients describe it as dizziness, head rush, or a wave of fatigue that takes 20 minutes to clear. It is not random, it is pharmacological. The action step here is not to stop anything. It is to bring your complete medication list, every drug, every dose, including over-the-counter, to your doctor and ask 2 specific questions. First, of the medications I take before sleep, which ones have half-lives long enough to still be active when I wake up? Second, could any of these be shifted to a morning dose to reduce their overnight burden? That conversation, according to a 2022 study in the Annals of Internal Medicine, led to improved self-reported morning energy in 61% of older adults who had it. 61% from a timing change. No new prescriptions, no side effects, just the right question asked at the right appointment. I want to pause the list for a moment because there is someone I need to tell you about. Harold was 73 years old, retired postal worker from outside Milwaukee. 28 years walking a route in all weather, which meant Harold was fit in a way most men his age weren't. He wasn't overweight, he didn't smoke, he still walked every morning. And yet for 2 years, he woke up feeling like he hadn't slept at all, every morning, without exception. His wife told him to see his doctor. He went 3 times in 18 months, 3 different conversations. The answers were variations of the same thing. Harold, you're 73. This is to be expected. Your blood work looks fine. Each time he walked out feeling a little worse, not just physically, but in a deeper way, like something was being slowly taken from him and the people who were supposed to help weren't looking hard enough to find it. When Harold came to me referred by his cardiologist for an unrelated check after a mildly abnormal EKG, I asked him one question nobody had asked before. Harold, what does your morning actually feel like? Walk me through it minute by minute. He told me. He woke up at 6. He lay there for 20 minutes because getting vertical felt like a project. When he stood, a brief wave of dizziness. He needed coffee before he could formulate a thought. By a.m. he felt almost normal. By 3 in the afternoon he was fine. But mornings, specifically and consistently, felt like climbing out of concrete. That pattern, the slow warm-up, the late arrival of function, told me something before I ordered a single test. It told me his body was completing its overnight maintenance late. Something was preventing the proper reset. I ordered a 24-hour ambulatory blood pressure monitor. Not an office reading, not a home reading, a monitor that records pressure every 20 minutes for a full day and night, including during sleep. What it showed was unambiguous. Harold's blood pressure was not dipping at night the way it should, between a.m. and 5 a.m. It was rising, sharply. His heart was working harder in his deepest sleep than it was during his morning walk, for 2 years. Which brings me to numbers 3, 2, and 1 and the reason. As a heart surgeon, morning fatigue is not just a quality of life issue to me. It is a cardiac warning. Number 3. Undiagnosed sleep apnea. If you snore or if someone who has watched you sleep has ever said you stop breathing and then gasp, do not skip this one. And if you sleep alone and have never been observed, understand that you may not know. Sleep apnea is the condition in which the airway partially or fully collapses during sleep, interrupting breathing for 10, 20, 40 seconds, sometimes longer, and it is estimated to affect over 30% of adults over 60. The vast majority have never been formally diagnosed. A 2020 meta-analysis in the European Respiratory Journal confirmed that SPAP therapy for sleep apnea, the pressurized mask that keeps the airway open during sleep, produced measurable reductions in nighttime blood pressure, reductions in atrial fibrillation recurrence, and significantly improved morning energy and cognitive function in adults over 60. One intervention, multiple cardiac and neurological benefits. This one requires understanding a single biological concept, and once you understand it, the way your mornings feel will never seem random again. Cortisol is a hormone produced by your adrenal glands that regulates, among many things, your body's readiness to be awake. In a healthy circadian rhythm, cortisol begins rising in the early morning hours around 4 a.m. peaks between 7 and a.m., and then gradually declines across the day, reaching its lowest point around midnight. This morning cortisol peak is what creates the physiological experience of waking up alert. It mobilizes blood sugar, activates the cardiovascular system, sharpens cognitive processing. Without it, those systems don't activate properly. The lights come on, but the power hasn't fully arrived yet. The most powerful tool for recalibrating a disrupted cortisol rhythm is also the most counterintuitive, deliberate morning light exposure. Within 30 minutes of waking, step outside or sit near a bright window for 10 to 15 minutes. Natural light is the primary signal your brain uses to anchor the cortisol morning peak. This is not a wellness platitude. This is photobiology. The light entering your retina travels directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master clock, and sets the timing of the entire hormonal cascade that follows. It takes approximately 2 weeks of consistent morning light exposure for most people to feel a measurable shift in morning alertness. No prescription required, no side effects. Number 1. Silent nocturnal cardiac stress. This is where I have to speak to you directly as a surgeon, not as someone sharing general health tips, but as someone who has stood at a table at 3 in the morning holding a heart that didn't get here overnight. In a healthy body, blood pressure follows a predictable pattern across the 24-hour cycle. It rises in the morning, peaks in the afternoon, and then dips 10 to 20% during sleep, a period we call nocturnal dipping. That dip is not incidental. It is when the heart gets its most efficient rest, cardiac workload drops, arterial walls decompress, the inflammatory repair processes that maintain vascular integrity accelerate during that low-pressure window. Without it, the heart is working a full shift with no break every single night. Here is what I have found in patients with persistent morning exhaustion that no other explanation fits. A significant proportion of them are non-dippers or reverse dippers, meaning their blood pressure either does not fall during sleep or actually rises. Some of them have blood pressure that is perfectly controlled during the day. Normal on every office reading, but surging between AM and AM2 levels that would alarm many cardiologists. And the only reason we know is because someone ordered the right test. Herald's Monitor told this story exactly. 2 years of mornings that felt like climbing out of concrete, traced to a blood pressure pattern no office reading had ever caught, because office readings happen in the afternoon. The solution for Harold was a medication timing adjustment. His blood pressure pill, moved from morning to evening, produced a measurable nocturnal dip within the first week. 3 weeks later, he called me. He said he had woken up on a Tuesday morning, nothing special about the day, and simply felt ready, just ready, for the first time in 2 years. He wasn't even sure when he noticed. It just was. 7 separate causes, and I want you to notice something about this list. Not one of them is aging in isolation. Dehydration is fixable in 30 seconds. Blood sugar instability is addressable with a meal timing change. CoQ10 depletion is a conversation about a $20 bottle. Medication timing is a 5-minute question at your next appointment. Sleep apnea is a sleep study and a device. Cortisol rhythm is morning light and consistency. Nocturnal hypertension is a monitoring test and a timing adjustment. Check 4. Multiple evening medications, antihistamines, blood pressure drugs, pharmacological fatigue. Fix. Bring full medication list and ask about timing review. Check 3. Snoring, morning dry mouth, headache, more rested on couch than in bed, sleep apnea. Fix. Request polysomnography referral. Check 2. Wired at night, slow. 2. Start in the morning, no consistent morning light routine, cortisol rhythm disruption. Fix. 10 to 15 minutes natural light within 30 minutes of waking, consistent wake time 7 days a week.